Incoming transmission.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another transmission from the Outpost. I'm the nerd of the Outpost. I'm glad to be with y'all this evening. Tonight we have part 3 of my ongoing series, RPG Nightmares, Tales from the Gaming Table. Here I share stories of just people having bad times, either be it with other players or the game master or just the game in general. How's everybody doing this evening? I hope y'all had a great weekend and looking forward to the start of a new week. So let's get on into this and get with the first story. Story about an antagonistic GM. T3, hey girl, what's up? Glad you're here. Glad to see you. So I'm gonna get going with this first story entitled "I Have an Antagonistic GM." So here we go. Our friend is running our campaign, and I've known him for years. Ever since he started running this campaign, I feel like the power and control has completely gone to his head. Excuse my choice of words, but it's complete horse manure. Winning, what's up, dude? What's up? What's going on? Glad y'all are here. Glad y'all are here. Oh, this is gonna be a saucy one. He's using words like horse manure. Oh, my little ears are all soiled. Oh my goodness. It all started on a Tuesday night. We were about 2 hours in, and I had to make a roll with disadvantage. Fine by me. I rolled the dice, and they both landed on 5. I looked at him earnestly and asked, "Double rolls get to roll again?" He snorted and replied, "No," with such repugnance on his face as if I just insulted his mother and spat on his shoes. Shelly, don't make me laugh when I'm reading. Come on. He didn't even look up from his screen. I tried to reason with him, explaining that me and my players are the heroes of the campaign and that I should get this extra level of luck. It would only be when any of the players rolled doubles. He looked back up from his DM screen and stared me directly in the eyes, then pointed his finger right at me and said, "This is not a democracy." With such ferociousness in his voice, I was stunned, flabbergasted, and I tried to force out a rebuttal but I stumbled with my words. I was just so thrown off by the poison he spat at my soul. Then he narrowed his eyes and said to me in a low tone, "Now sit down." He looked and talked down to me like I was his pet dog or something begging for boiling water. I sat in silence for a long time. My other players, who I thought were my friends, by the way, said nothing. They just stared at their hands on the table like mindless, numb sheep. It was honestly disgusting. I've never been so defeated in my life, completely powerless. I felt like I was living in George Orwell's 1984, like we were all or citizens of Oceania. I never went back after that night, and I'm still disturbed about what happened to this day. This is the reason I'm asking for this community. Should I demand an apology? Okay, this is one. I'm not going to agree with the writer on this one. Each DM has their own set of rules. Each DM has a way of they run the game. They're called dungeon masters or game masters for a reason. They are in charge. The players are guests at their table. Now, this story didn't go into to detail if the game master was hosting it, if they were at another player's house. But a game master has to run it how they see fit, how they want to, in order in order to keep a cohesive game going. I think this person might have had some other issues at the table that they didn't mention about. You know, I I've actually never heard of this idea that double rolls get to roll again. Disadvantage is disadvantage. When something in game is affecting your character that the player has to roll twice and take the lowest number. It's a fun game mechanic I've always enjoyed with disadvantage or advantage. It's I think and game tables, they're really not democracies. You have to this Monopoly rules, maybe. You have to go by what the game master says to keep the game going. I think maybe this person too. Oh, okay. Roll again on doubles. That is, yeah. I remember that. It's been years. I was never a Monopoly fan. It's been years since I've actually played a game of Monopoly. Uh, no, more like a soft dictatorship. T3. I've had instances at the table where I disagreed with. Hey, Suzanne, thanks for being here. I've had instances at game tables where I disagreed with how the game was being run. I've voiced my concerns, but when the game master kind of put their foot down, said, "This is how I'm going to run the game," I would have to say, "Okay," and kind of suck it up. It sounded like this player, this player, yes, T3. It's more of a monarchy, I guess you could say. Yeah, more like a monarchy. I think this player really didn't understand the role of the game master versus the player, and I think they might have. Okay, Suzanne, I hope everything's going okay. I'll talk to you later. I think that this player might have looked too much into this or been too, what's the word I'm looking for? Hurt too easily by the DM's reaction. And maybe the DM was very vitriol when it came to their answer. Maybe not. I don't see this being an antagonistic DM more so than an antagonistic player. They're players that want to have games run the way they want instead of how the DM wants to. So I think really this, instead of just running off, I always say, talk to the DM in private if you have issues. I cannot reiterate that enough. So we're going to move on to the next story. And I've seen this instance a lot where DMs have spouses or girlfriends in the game and they seem to play favorites. T3, exactly. Antagonistic players completely ruin everyone's time. I've witnessed arguments at the table that between DM and players that I thought were almost going to come to blows at one point. So I've had to like break up fights and arguments. But I was like, why would you let it get that far? Why would it go, why would a game get that far? I don't understand it. In a game where you can be anything, why would you let it get that far? But in my reading of I okay. Why would you allow the real world to ruin a game that's supposed to allow you to escape? And I keep seeing a recurring theme when I'm researching for the show, reading up these stories of when DMs. Hey, Memento, what's up? What's up? When DMs have their spouses or girlfriends in it, that can be an issue when the DM plays favorites for their spouses. And here's a story that I've been seeing a lot. DM and DM's girlfriend makes D&D insufferable, the story's title. Starts out, I don't want another long ass post from me. Whew, this one actually said bad words instead of like the last one. I want another long ass post from me, making this as short as possible. Context is I'm in real life D&D game with 4 friends, the DM and the DM's girlfriend. We're only level 2 as well. Let's just make this bullet point for ease. Okay, first off, the DM is late for the session. That would be an issue. DM is very slow to get the story going. Just says we're on a wagon heading to the city. Yeah, I could see that being an issue. The DM, the DM needs to go into detail. Needs to go. What do they see? Do they see other people passing them on the road? Are there bandits on the road? What could be happening on the road? That's, to me, the traveling part in D&D is sometimes the most fun because you never know what's going to happen when you take that next turn along the road. One in real life hour in, and we're still on a wagon and have done nothing. And exactly, they see busy people. But what about those people could have lives? A good DM would be able to come up with lives. Are they busy with a farm? Are they busy in an inn? Are they busy traveling? Or are they another group of adventures? Busy bees. Yep. Then 30 minutes out of game talk about non-game related topics. That has always been a pet peeve for me. Table talk. I understand. If it's talking about what a player is going to do. But if it's like, oh, what did you have for lunch? Leave that topic for your break or something. I've sat at tables where with new players and I'd sit there. Yes, this would be technically table talk, but we'd be talking about how they would play their character or how they roll, what roles mean, and what they would do in this situation. I would help them. I'd help them learn the gameplay of it instead of talking about random things. I finally speak up and say, guys, I drove 45 minutes to be here. Can we please just play D&D? Everyone seems awkward for a minute, but they understand my frustration. One more hour passes and the first battle happens. I got my turn skipped because I rolled low on an athletic check to walk upstairs, even though my character is tied for the fastest movement speed in the party. Okay, I don't understand. I don't like that. I don't like how players can be skipped because they rolled low on an athletics check. That doesn't matter. During the battle, this random BS happens that causes the party to take unavoidable damage at level 2. Yeah, that could be a TPK if you take, like, depending on your party's makeup, 10, 15 points of unavoidable damage. The monster takes out more than half of the monk's health but suffers no injuries. DM has an injury rule that will be relevant later. Okay, another new rule that I've never heard about. Once monster is dead, DM's girlfriend shows up to play finally, so he adds her in. She's at the gates of the city, tied up by a gnoll who's offering a trade for her life for something else. Okay, maybe that might be a little something that they interject from their personal lives. Party decides to F up the single gnoll to rescue what we know to be the 6th party member. Well, I get to the DM's girlfriend first and free her, and then rewarded with taking 2 javelin to the chest at range. At level 2, that's not only is my AC. Now, AC is how much a person has to roll to. It's your armor class. It's how much armor defense your character has. I was thinking I'm an attack roll. Got that confused for a second. Which is less than a 50% chance to hit from a normal level 2 monster. These 2 javelins do 17 damage to me at level 2 from javelins. Yeah, that's almost a kill shot. DM decides that now a player gets an injury, so I suffer a -1 to con for 17 in-game days. Thanks. What about the monk? Yeah, that. They're actually quite a pain in the butt. I'm gonna look something up, and I'm gonna look it up for you, T3. There's actually a fairy race. You can actually play as the fairy. Funny enough, but but it's this seems like the story seems like a DM not being very consistent, or maybe even forgot about the injury rule. Now, I think that might also be a little adding a little too much mud in the water. I think that it just adds too much complexity to it. But I'll finish the story and answer your question, T3. I'm going to start. DM decides that now a player gets an injury, so I suffer a -1 to con for 17 in-game days. What about the monk? After all, the DM girlfriend who I saved decides to burn down a schoolhouse because I'm neutral evil. Yeah. Finally, DM's girlfriend keeps talking about wanting to flirt with other players' PC, and I just respond saying, I'm not asexual, and all my characters are as well. I think I'm leaving this group. This was 6 hours of pain, and we barely did anything. Now, they did edit it. After trying to talk to one of my friends in that group who is heavily gaslighting me into thinking many of the things that I listed above are just normal, I just told him that I'll be dipping out of the campaign. It sounds like my closer friends are gearing up to host at least some one shot, so I have that in the meantime. But man, I just cannot find a good D&D group. I don't know if it's because I have high standards due to the way that I DM, or I'm just a literally cursed D&D player. Yeah, this seems like a DM kind of maybe uh, kind of like I said, muddying the waters with their rules. So I would try. I would agree. This person needed to find another another game. But TT, you asked about about fairies. Fairies are more a race now, a playable race that you can play. You can create your own characters. Uh, you get now. This is just guides. That's what a lot of people seem to forget sometimes. It's called a player's handbook in D&D. It's not a rule book. It's a handbook, and the fairy details are the Feywild is home to many fantastic peoples, including fairies. Fairies are a wee folk, but not normally as much as pixie and their pixie and sprite friends. The fairies spoke Elvish, Goblin, or Sylvan, and encounters with humans visitors prompted many of them to learn Common as well. Infused with the magic of the Feywild, most fairies No, not at all, Shelley. No, I don't think so. I honestly don't think so. Most fairies look like small elves with insectile wings, but each fairy has a special physical characteristic that sets the fairy apart. For your fairy, roll on the fairy characteristics table or choose an option from it. You're also free to come up with your own characteristics if none of the suggestions below fits your character. At first, but then I was joking. You're one of the least racist people I've ever met. T3, come on. I'm serious when I say that. Come on. This is one thing I like about these kind of characters. You could pick your own characteristics, and they come up with some really fun ones just to start off with. Your wings are thick like those of birds. This is on a D8. You have shimmering multicolored skin. That would be kind of fun to play around with if you're a rogue and you have to disguise yourself. You have exceptionally long ears. A glittering mist constantly surrounds you. You have a small spectral horn on your forehead like a unicorn horn. Your legs I'd have to get back to you on that, Lenny. You smell like fresh brownies. As long as you don't smell fudge, because that means you're having a stroke. A noticeable harmless chill surrounds you. I'll show you the traits. Your character type, you're a Fey. You're small, so that means you can get through certain spaces and stuff. You have a walking speed of 30. The Druid Craft cantrip, which is just a small, low level Druid spell. Shelly, there's anything you'll be able to find anything in for D&D. For crones, I think like the closest thing I could think of was a hag. And there's so many different hags there that you'd be able to pick from. But as you raise in health, you get fairy fire, which is a really good low level spell. But one thing I like about the fairies a lot, you can cast enlarge and reduce, which it can double the target size, and you can even cast it on yourself. But my favorite things about this is your flight. Fairies have flights, and flights would go so well with so many different classes like rogues and monks, which are two of my favorites. It would allow you to swoop, fly in. If you're a monk, be able to get a couple of great hits in and fly out before before the bad guy knows you're there. But talking about hags for Shelley, and then I'm going to get on to my third and final story. See, these are actually you could play a hag character. Yeah, these are the monster stats for it's a great bad guy for medium. I'd say medium level, maybe between maybe 10, 11. No, maybe even lower than that. Probably 5 or 6 level character. Great armor class, 17. That's a hard armor class to pass. You got great spells, detect magic, of course, magic missile. That's along with fireball. Magic missile is a magic user's bread and butter. You create 3 glowing darts of magical force per level, and it deals 1d4 plus 1. That means just you roll a d4 and then add 1. They all strike simultaneously, and you can direct them to hit one creature or several. So that, like, if your party's surrounded by 5 or 6 characters, you could cast level 3 or 4 magic missile and hit every single bad guy. It's one of my favorite spells ever. There's so many ways with you, Shelley, that can be taken. It's got your typical claw attack, which is great, and change shape. That would, with its change shape, that would be that could be many. You could play it in many different ways. That'd be fun for a DM to play. Maybe you have this little old lady that your party's been hired to help, and it turns out to be a hag, and attacks you after you complete your mission for it. I'm going to read the description for the night hag. Sly and subversive, night hags want to see the virtuous turn to villainy, loved turn to obsession, kindness turned to hate, devotion to disregard, and generosity to selfishness. Night hags take perverse joy in corrupting mortals. Night hags were once creatures of the Feywild, but their foulness saw them exiled to Hades long ago, where they degenerated into fiends. The night hags have long since spread across the lower plains. This would be a great, like I said, a great mid-level baddie. So so I'm going to move on to my third and final story. This one's a little longer. And this is something I think I personally haven't ran into. It's called main character syndrome. When a player thinks that they're the boss, they're the star. D&D is an ensemble thing. It's not solo. Thinking on it, we had one guest at the table who wanted to just, we were in a temple or dungeon, and he just wanted to go off on his own. And he kept heading the complete opposite direction from the party to the point our DMs had to say, you have to go back. He was a younger kid. It was his first time playing, and I think he felt like he wanted to go off on his own while we were all trying to figure out the puzzles and stuff. He got caught in a spike trap, and I think that was the I think the DM was saying that was the DM's way of saying time to come back. But let me get on this. This one's a little long, but I think it's something that an interesting topic to talk about. Here's the cast, and this is the DM, exactly what it says to the tin. Game master, fighter, game master's wife, an elven fighter, bard, my husband, a dragonborn, actually a changeling bard, me, a tiefling rogue. Rim of the Forest Maiden, which is a very popular module for D&D. Nick Ricada Law and Quarter Black Garrett and a couple of others from that group, they were playing that for a while. That was the adventure they were playing. Rime of the Frost Maiden, right? Character creation went pretty okay, other than a slew of slutty bard jokes about the bard's character before they were even a fully realized concept. Because bards will fuck anything. We start in the game in one of the towns dealing in the human sacrifices to Oriel. Oriel is an evil storm ice goddess in D&D. And it goes pretty okay. Combat smooth. We're quite quippy and light with it. Bard and I decide during the first session that our characters know each other in an ex-coworker kind of way, and the GM liked it and rolled with it. That's a fun connection to make your character. It answers the question, why are your characters together? And that allows kind of a little more repartee between them. After that session, Fighter wants her and my character to know each other too. It was great, really. My character's current conflict involved anxieties about soon becoming a father. He was adventuring for cash. That's really good. That breaks away from the stereotypical, oh, my parents are dead, I have nothing but adventuring. And their conflict involved him projecting those onto her, all discussed thoroughly outside the game, and pretty good stuff. That's great, to make sure your characters can make sure the players are fine with the connections. This is where it starts getting hinky. See, Fighter, as it turned out, had main character syndrome, and by about session 2, it was pretty clear the GM was enabling it. Now let's backtrack a little bit. The Fighter is the game master's wife, so this goes with our second story a little bit too, talking about spouses and girlfriends and boyfriends playing, and one the game master, another the player, and playing favorites. And by session 2, if Bart or I talked to a plot relevant character, we didn't get far into the conversation and it got glossed over. If Fighter did, they were all too ready to spill plot relevant info. Fighter got one of the most chosen one-ish character secrets. Reghead heir, for those familiar, for those not, basically the child of a tribal leader who tried to sacrifice them. They were rescued and now seek to enter. And a lot of emphasis got put on that in and out of game. Mine and Bard's were relatively base. Mine were being blessed by the Frost Maiden, resistant to cold damage. Bard was a changeling. What could have been a narrative weight, but GM admitted they literally had no plans for how to incorporate this before going back to talking about the Fighter. It was all on us to carve narrative spaces for our secrets, while hers were being integrated into the central plot. Something about her mother tracking us and being one of Oriel's top liaisons, and therefore one of our biggest obstacles. Yeah, this is a DM who's focusing way too much on the one character. This is not just a main character syndrome with the player, but also with the DM. Oh, and the bard character had to have a one night stand with some standoff bitch with a scaly kink to obtain their GM's promised magical item. And oops, turned out the next morning this was conveniently attractive dude was ugly as sin for the lulz. Okay, that's came to a weird head with this one PC who I think was one of the GM's NPCs standing in for one in the module. I genuinely can't tell. Looking back and reading the book for this module, I can't tell who or where anything was based on in their game. Who apparently got incredibly drunk around Fighter in the session before we joined, and they ended up in bed together. Jesus, everyone's sleeping around together in this game. Fighter had been doggedly pursuing him since, and we were heavily indicated to that this guy had secrets and plot relevance. I tried talking to him. He somehow, out of my character's attempts at getting information, concluded that he was being flirted with and informed my character that he wasn't the type. I cracked a joke about him not liking tieflings since I was told the old anti-infernal sentiment was in fact a thing in this setting, and this NPC was a local religious fanatic. Oh boy. And the GM says with a wide grin, you're really harping on this racist thing, aren't you? It's not because he's racist, it's because he's straight. Kind of threw me off, so I stopped talking to the NPC, and lo and behold, Fighter swoops in, hits on him. He responds, unfortunately, as all NPCs, despite giving her what she needed, would respond to her with a weird sort of disdain. Probably since she actively antagonized everyone she talked to in turn chaotic, stupid fashion and got the info we needed. So once again, the tiefling we're going to go back up to the rogue, the tiefling rogue, and the dragonborn / changeling bard, who is not the spouse. They try and fail for some weird reason, and of course the DM's wife or girlfriend swoops in and wins. About a session later, this was apparently retconned, and it was that this NPC was not in fact straight and was in fact racist against tieflings, and this was perceived as if it were that all along. Gaslighting. Delightful. Yeah, everybody loves gaslighting. We just kind of quietly dropped out of the session or so after that because of out of game reasons. Mainly GM revealing he had a crush on me and flaunting his flirting in front of his instantly insecure wife, much to everyone's fucking discomfort. And that his style of flirting was emotional terrorism. Wow, emotional terrorism. But the pièce de résistance of the shit show was probably the Fighter taking over as DM for a bit and punishing GM's character for flirting with an NPC by giving him magical treatment-resistant crabs. Or maybe it was when the GM confided in me his race play and slave kinks. Wow. And I had this horrifying hypothesis that the NPC's incompatible orientation was swapped out within its infernal racism to set the foundation for some truly traumatizing ERP later on. Hell, he did creepier before we stopped hanging out with him. It was weird. Whole thing was weird. Haven't used that character since, even though I really like him, because remembering that gives me all the ick. Yeah, this was a GM who basically sounded like he wanted to live out his sex fantasies in D&D, which is just weird to me. I can understand taking preferences and ideas about the magical resistant crabs. You need to see a witch doctor about those T3. But it's just, this is one of the most bizarre stories that I've read. You know, one, it is completely disgusting that he would start having a crush on one of his players in front of his wife, like that. No, we don't have any magic seafood restaurants down here where I live. Thank God. It's yeah. Take me 10 minutes to cross the country. But it's I think to be a good DM, you really need to disconnect yourself from the relations you have with the players. You can't do what this guy did and basically try to cheat on your wife with one of your players. It's one, it ruins the game, and I feel bad for this person. They really like this character. I have some great characters that I've created. Some I've played, some till the game ended, or some that died that I've kept the character sheets because I hope to return to them one day in other games. But it's kind of sad that the DM ruined the character for the player, and that's the last thing a DM needs to do is interject their personal issues and ruin this things like this. Like one of my characters who I absolutely love one day is, and Memento, it's really hard, when the drama infects your escapism, and that's yeah, yeah. And drama can be a good thing if done right. There's good drama, like character driven drama, but this is personal, player driven, personal player issue driven drama. This isn't character drama. You could have, there's difference between drama that drives the story and a drama that, like this stuff, that derails the story. And I hate it. I had one player's mother threaten to shoot me. Now, does that mean I'm going to quit playing D&D? No. Does it mean I'm not going to go back to the character I was playing at the time? No. I will. The character I have is one of my favorite characters because it's not. I hate you, Shelly. I hate you. My character was. I like creating characters that you wouldn't normally think of. You wouldn't normally put the class and the race together. My character was a drunken monk, Way the Drunken Master monk, who was a Goliath, which is like a half giant, a giant kin raised by dwarves. I played it like he was the runt of the litter. Goliaths, like a lot of the Goliaths you see, are the big muscular bound meatheads who could bend steel with their hands. I played my. Is that the class you want to go for, Shelly? If you ever play D&D, the Masturbator, there's probably a homebrew version of that. My character, he was the runt of his tribe, so he was thrown out to die in the snow, like 300 style. You know how the Spartans, they'd inspect the child, and if they didn't meet standard, they you'd go blind as well. As if you teach it too much, you'll go blind, Shelley. But so he was found by this dwarf couple. No, it's probably the 15th time you heard it. So, but it's happened to me, I think, twice. I had a ex-girlfriend's mother threatened to shoot me, but and this player's mom threatened to shoot me. That's only happened to me twice that I can remember. But my character, he was raised by this dwarf couple who found him and raised him. And my character, his name was Dothak. He became a drunken monk because of his parents' skills. I played in my character. His backstory was his father was a cleric in their dwarf clan who made the holy water, which for dwarves is beer. And his mother was a fist fighter. She never used a weapon. She would fight with her fists, and she taught him how to train. And his dwarf father, quotes, why don't you just make us t-shirts, Shelly, and we can split the profits, huh? And he learned how to incorporate through fighting. He was lean like a runner, which was uncharacteristic for Goliath. And whenever he was make some merch and start selling it. That would be great. I played him up like sometimes he'd forget his size, like he forget he was over 6 feet tall, kind of like Gandalf and Baggin. He'd run into things sometimes, and he was a really fun character. I got some really great magic items from him, and had some really great DM or game moments. And monks are some say they're the most broken class. I love you too, big sister. Love you back. It was just so much fun, and even though the game ended badly, I wouldn't hesitate if I got another table game to bring him back. Of course, he got to like a level 13 or 14. I'd have to work with the DM and everything. Like whenever you bring anything to the table, you have to run it by the DM. And that's the point of a lot of these stories. The thing I think would solve a lot of these problems in these stories that I read these past few weeks, and the stories that I'm going to be reading going forward, is talk to the DM. Find out what the DM's rules are, if they have any special homebrew rules, if they want certain things done in the game, because the DM isn't God, but he's pretty close to it in a game setting. The dice, I would argue that the dice are the gods of DM. So it's sad seeing these games, where these stories where people are having problems with all these issues that really end games. where a simple conversation, in private outside the game would probably fix many of these problems. But I love this game, and I hate seeing people have such bad times in it. I love the fact that you can do anything, be anything you want. You can have such lofty goal. You can have lofty goals of becoming a god, or just want your own bit of land to farm. That biggest spectrum, farmer or god, you can do anything like that or in between. It's just so much. It's so much fun, and storytelling. It's a pure game because it's storytelling, a piece of paper, and your brain and your imagination, and that makes it so much fun. So I hope y'all enjoyed this. Leave a like, share, sub if you're not already subbed. And I'll leave you what I always say: find your passion and nerd out about it. This is The Outpost, signing off.